For years, people asked the same question. How did a man like Jeffrey Epstein build a trafficking network across multiple states, multiple countries, private islands, and private jets without getting stopped? The answer people whispered in private is now being discussed openly in the files, the testimony, and the statements from people inside the system. Epstein wasn't just rich. He wasn't just connected. He wasn't just dangerous. He was useful. Not useful to victims, not useful to society, useful to people in power, useful to institutions that benefit from leverage, useful to agencies that operate in the shadows, not the spotlight. The intelligence angle in this case isn't a conspiracy, it's a pattern that starts decades before most people even heard Epstein's name. Let's begin with something the public often forgets. Epstein didn't begin his career in finance. He began as a teacher, with no degree, at a prestigious private school. Then suddenly he transitioned into working for powerful financiers who gave him responsibility far above his experience. From the beginning, Epstein moved like someone being placed, not someone rising naturally. His early employers, including Leslie Wexner, the billionaire founder of L Brands, granted him power over assets, homes, and finances in ways that make no sense for an unproven advisor. You don't give control of your wealth to a stranger unless someone vouched for him, someone influential. Fast forward to the 1990s and early 2000s. Epstein was photographed, invited, and embraced by elites in politics, intelligence, science academia, and foreign governments. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when someone becomes a node, a person who collects information, relationships, vulnerabilities, and leverage. That's the foundation of human intelligence work. You don't always need agents, sometimes you need access. And Epstein's entire life was access. Then comes the moment no one can explain away. Alexander Acosta, the US attorney who approved Epstein's sweetheart deal, was asked years later why he allowed a trafficking kingpin to walk free. His answer was simple, direct, and terrifying. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. He didn't say which intelligence service, he didn't say how he knew, he didn't say who told him. But enough people were involved in those negotiations that this wasn't rumor, it was instruction. Here's where things get even more interesting. There were intelligence rumors on both sides, US and foreign. Multiple investigative journalists, including Vicky Ward, Julie K. Brown, and John Solomon, uncovered hints that Epstein had ties to Israeli intelligence through his partner and handler, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father, Robert Maxwell, was long suspected of being an intelligence asset. Robert Maxwell didn't just have casual associations. He died under mysterious circumstances in 1991 and was posthumously confirmed to have worked for multiple intelligence agencies, including Mossad. So the question becomes, what happens when the daughter of a known intelligence asset partners with a man who has access to some of the most powerful men in the world? You get a system where information is currency, where compromising material becomes leverage, where exploitation becomes a tool, where the line between trafficker and asset becomes intentionally blurred. The files show that Epstein had safes, not one, multiple, filled with tapes, photos, documents, hard drives, and folders labeled with names, some redacted, some not. What kind of trafficker catalogs evidence like that? Someone who wants insurance, someone who needs leverage, someone who knows the only thing protecting them is the power to destroy others. That's not criminal behavior, that's operational behavior. And here's the detail that should unsettle every viewer. When the FBI raided Epstein's New York mansion in 2019, they seized everything. Photos, hard drives, videos, documents. But after Epstein's suicide, several investigators and insiders revealed that much of the seized material was quickly classified. Not released, not entered into public record, not allowed to be viewed by journalists or victims. The question is why? Because evidence becomes classified when it contains sensitive national security material or when it implicates individuals whose exposure would destabilize governmental or intelligence relationships. Think about that. The idea that a sex trafficking case needed classification protections isn't logical, unless the case wasn't just about trafficking. It was about information. And then there's the behavior of agencies. When someone is a threat, intelligence services monitor them. When someone is an asset, intelligence services protect them. When someone is both, intelligence services control them. Look at Epstein's timeline through that lens. He moved money internationally without scrutiny. He traveled without restriction. He owned properties in multiple jurisdictions notorious for lax oversight. He was granted a plea deal that's functionally impossible under normal circumstances. Not for you, not for me, not for your neighbor. He was different. He violated probation repeatedly without consequence. He maintained relationships with high-ranking politicians. He was considered too difficult to monitor by the very agencies tasked with monitoring him. That doesn't happen because someone is clever. It happens because someone is protected. Even his death shows signs of intelligence involvement. For a high-profile inmate, the failure of multiple cameras, guards, logs, and systems at the same moment is statistically impossible. The only time you see synchronized system failures is during black operations or cover-ups. This doesn't prove Epstein was an intelligence asset, but it proves that powerful forces treated him like he was one. And when you analyze the entire pattern, the sweetheart deal, the protection, the sealed files, the classified evidence, the broken cameras, the vanishing co-conspirators, the question shifts from was Epstein connected to intelligence to how many intelligence agencies benefited from what he was doing. Because this wasn't one country's scandal. It wasn't one government's failure. It wasn't one predator's depravity. It was an intersection between power, exploitation, intelligence, and control. The question now is, what happened to Epstein's material? What happened to the material Epstein collected? Who has it? Who controls it? And who's using it right now? In the next episode, we're going into the one piece of evidence that ties all of this together: Epstein's safes, the blackmail system, the leverage, the recordings, and why powerful men are still panicking, even with Epstein gone. If you want episode 7, hit like, comment truth down below, and subscribe, because the island was the center, the victims were the heart, but the safes were the weapons. And understanding that changes everything.